Know the Ropes. Presented by the American Alpine Club and Adidas Terrex. Rappelling is one of the most common ways that climbers descend. It's also one of the most technical and therefore one of the most dangerous procedures in all of climbing. Anytime you have to get lots of little things right in order to avoid incidents, there are opportunities for mistakes. To avoid all of that, it's important to understand what rappelling is, when rappelling should happen, and how a rappel should be rigged. In order to rappel, a climber connects their body weight to a rope using a rappel device. While there are dozens of devices, we can specify two essential varieties. A device will either accommodate a counterweight rappel, so the device will need to hold two ropes, or a device will only accommodate a fixed-like rappel, so the device will only hold one rope. Let's look at both options. When climbers hope to retrieve their rope from below, a counterweight rappel is a preferred option. In counterweight rappelling, the rope runs freely through a set of rappel rings or some other rappel fixture. The rope must be counterweighted during the rappel, and that is often done by putting both strands of rope through a single belay device. Here, the Petzl Reverso accommodates both strands of rope. The rappeller effectively counterweights themselves, and the applied counterweight during the rappel keeps the rope from sliding through the rings above. In this configuration, if a climber forgets to put both strands of rope through the Reverso, there can be no counterweight, and the climber will likely fall to the bottom of the cliff. In fixed line rappelling, a single strand of rope is affixed to an anchor. The rope cannot be retrieved from below, and there is no need for a counterweight arrangement on the rappel device. Fixed line rappels can use any belay device, whether they accommodate one or two strands of rope. Here's how it looks with the Petzl Grigri. Climbers rappel for two main reasons. They climb a big wall, up, 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 in sections, and then they rappel down, 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 also in sections. It's called multi-stage rappelling. Climbers also occasionally rappel when they clean anchors in a single pitch setting. Sometimes, local custom or policy require climbers to rappel when they clean. Sometimes, lowering is not an option. At other times, rappelling is needed in emergencies. While the two options are slightly different, experienced climbers learn to adapt the rigging, the device selection, and the anchoring accordingly. Anytime a climber rappels in any context, there are several vital principles to bear in mind. These principles help climbers decide how to rig, what to do when, and how to stay safe in the process. For any rappel, it's vital to be secure during the setup. Rappels happen in exposed and insecure locales, and a climber has to be secured in such places. For any rappel, it's crucial that a climber use a backup. If anything unexpected were to happen during a rappel, the climber should be assured that something other than the climber's brake hand can arrest the rappel. It is wise to manage both ends of the rope during every rappel. If the ends of the rope are not managed, it is possible for a rappelling climber to rappel off the ends of the rope. There are a handful of rigging options that help a climber avoid getting hair, skin, or clothing entangled in a rappel device. Also, actively keeping things out of the rappel device and paying close attention while rappelling are important steps. Let's look at how climbers apply these principles in two common rappelling contexts.
So we're about to make two consecutive rappels. We're at the top of a multi-pitch climb, and we're going to head down. So let's look at how we're applying the fundamental principles of rappelling to this situation. First of all, we're secured during setup. So we have our tethers attached to our anchor at the master point with locking carabiners, and they're both locked. Okay? We have appropriate backups. So when I go down first, I'm going to use a friction hitch backup. I'm going to select an auto block. Third, we're managing the ends of the rope. So in this case, I'm going to take the rope ends and I'm going to conjoin them with a flat overhand knot. I'm going to take all the ropes and stack them up And finally, we're going to get set up to avoid any entanglements. We're going to saddle bag the ropes and keep them coiled by our sides as we rappel. We're also going to make sure that any hair, hoodie strings, anything like that isn't getting snagged in the belay rappel devices. So when I arrive at this anchor, I'm going to keep the fundamental principles of rappelling in mind. The first thing I'm going to do is build an anchor and then secure myself. Then from below, I'm going to give Chelsea a fireman's belay. So to give an effective fireman's belay, I have to keep my eyes on the climber. I have to keep my hands on the rope. At any moment, if the climber loses control, I have to be able to pull the rope down, and that brings the climber to a halt. So at this point, we've both anchored and we've both double-checked before we finally undo all the parts of the rappel. Now with the rope pulled, we begin the whole procedure anew. Okay, Chelsea?
Okay. So I've arrived at my anchor and I have secured myself with my personal tether with the locking carabiner. I'm going to rappel off of this because it's a privately owned area and we want to conserve the gear that people have left behind.
Some private land managers insist that climbers clean when they rappel. Sometimes it's a local custom. If lowering off the anchor is not an option, it's important to know how to rig for rappel while cleaning.
I'm going to then set up my backup. Make sure that it's locked. I'm going to set up my rappel, my pestle reverso. Both ends of the rope are secure and managed well, and my hair and everything is out of the way of my rappel device. And now I'm going to start taking the anchor off.
Rappelling is often a necessary part of every outdoor climber's skills. If it's not done carefully, though, it immediately exposes climbers to unnecessary risks. Most incidents that happen on rappel happen because a climber didn't understand how rappelling works. A climber didn't carefully double check. A climber didn't have an adequate backup. A climber didn't manage the ends of the rope. Keep these points in mind. We can always recover from a bad day at the crags. A bad day rappelling can be catastrophic.